Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Splinter Cell hard difficulty video walkthrough. This is mission 4, the CIA headquarters. This level is so big it's going to be in 2 parts. That is 2 20-minute videos. And I'm doing this so that I can upload them a little bit swifter, because 40-minute videos on my internet connection is kind of horrific. And you can imagine it being even more so when you render them at a higher quality. So at the beginning of this, it has us sneaking into the CIA headquarters, and I'm showing you a fantastic example of just how poor the mantling system is in this game. Sometimes it works perfectly, sometimes it doesn't. It has generally nothing to do with you, and as much as I would love to blame, my own tendencies for my mistakes in a very anti-DSP way, it's literally the game. There are moments when Sam mantles like a boss. There are other moments when he just jumps up and down like some twat on a string that's having none of it, and it doesn't make much sense. So instead, I go around. At this moment, you don't have to rush too much. You just need to realise if you don't get to the ventilation system in time, it will close and you'll fail. And the game has no qualms about telling you failed. This is a game that the children in our schools right now could really do with experiencing, because they get medals for turning up and medals for not even taking part. You sat on the sidelines, silver medal. So this is one of those games that's going to introduce the concept of failing to people who, might tantamount to nothing more than someone who works a very menial job that people look at as being not a very good job, but they're jobs that have to be worked, and you might be the unlucky misfortunate person who has to work them. So play a bit of Splinter Cell and learn to fail before you ultimately fail in life, is the mantra of that conversation. But look at my light meter here. I don't look like I'm doing a very good job of hide and seek, yet the light meter tells me I am practically invisible. And it's something that takes some getting used to. And the worst part about it in this entire experience on hard is when you play Pandora tomorrow, this shit isn't going to cut it. Because when you go to a measure of darkness like the one we were just in, your light meter is going to be, yo dog, this ain't good enough, and you're going to get into a lot of skirmishes you could have avoided. So there's a definite difference in the games, and I believe there's going to be another one when I move on to Chaos Theory, because I believe Chaos Theory does it slightly differently as well. I also remember Chaos Theory's night vision goggles not looking as good, but that might have been the PS2 version where everything looked blurry. But did you see that? How stubborn is that fucking door? That took like a minute solid to get that pin. And this is quite nerve-wracking because I'm not completely in shadow and there's people patrolling. But it just goes to show you don't have to do this perfectly to get through the door. You should be okay. And this is where this mission gets slightly strange, because there's a few different avenues you can enjoy. That is a camera that cannot be destroyed. So to get past it, what we're going to do is we're going to sprint. And I say sprint loosely. We're going to move quicker than you ever should move when anybody's in a close proximity. In crouch to get to the next pool of shadow so the camera doesn't see us. And we're going to time it with its swathes back and forth. At this moment, I'm looking for pipes, because whenever you're in a moment like this and it seems like there's no way to cross the darkness, there's usually a sneaky pipe somewhere, and I am always on the lookout for said sneaky pipes. But this is literally exploiting the camera's blind spot, so we wait for it. As soon as it starts going the other way, we go, and I move a little quicker than I should, and I stop. So there's a dude here. I think he's a technician. While not as bad as a guard, still annoying if they set off alarms. We're going to probably ignore him, try and get past him using the shadows. And there's a really confusing part coming up, which you're probably not going to see because I've possibly edited it out. I couldn't quite remember where to go on this part. I couldn't retrace my steps the way I've always played the level, and I ended up going towards a wind turbine room. And I could get inside the turbines, but I couldn't do anything inside them, and it seemed like there might have been something I could have done to, alleviate the stress of getting into the building. However, I couldn't for the life of me figure out what it was, and I didn't want to go on GameFAQs or YouTube to see somebody else do something. Because I think as a walkthrough maker, if you start doing that, that's when your walkthrough stops, and that's where someone else's begins. And it's not fair on that person that you've watched, in all fairness, because you're emulating their strategies, and unless you give them credit, it can be a pretty douchey thing. And of course, there are distinctions in that. For instance, if you are willingly using someone else's strategy because you saw it and it's awesome and it works and you couldn't come up with a better one yourself, feel free to do that shit. But just make sure you say, you know, I saw this on so-and-so's video and it was pretty damn awesome. Because then it helps everybody, and that's what I want to try and move towards if I can. When I get a few more subscribers and I get a little bit more consistency on my channel, I want to try and help out other channels in ways that I never got. And I think that'd be kind of cool, because it'll build a network of people who have content that's incredibly underrated. And I'm not too sure how I'm going to push towards this kind of initiative, but there's definitely some things I can try and do. The last time I did anything like that was back when I had 4,000 subscribers, I think. I did a subscriber thank you where I mentioned a couple of channels, and 2 of those channels I've remained in contact with, which is awesome. One of them, however, I've not been speaking with that guy for quite some time, which is a bit of a shame. Excuse me. Ginger beer's kicking my ass. And normally I would edit that out, but it's probably quite quiet. So this is slow progress, this, and I am under no illusion that there is a quicker way to get through these rooms to this section, because this is where we want it to be. This is the main room, but it's the opposite side of it. However, I've took you on a path there that gets you through here without dealing with that central chamber, and it's my path, so it belongs in my video. But I went to my local town today with my girlfriend, and we were looking for some random stuff, something perhaps for her birthday, if she saw anything she liked, and I was going to trade in Shadows of Mordor for the Xbox 360, because I've made my walkthrough, I 1000G'd the game, and I'm going to be purchasing it again when I get a next-gen console, because it's a great game and I want to play it possibly on the Xbox One so I can get another 1000G, because it was a really fun game to get achievements on, and I love fun games for achievements, even though I'm not that bothered about them anymore as much as I used to be. But I went anyhow. I bought Shadows of Mordor for 34 quid. You'll have to use the conversion for dollars, because I'm just going to talk about quids here, folks, and that is pound sterling or GBP, if for anybody who's doesn't know the lingo for it. And the trading value was 30 quid, which means that game cost me £4, and I was able to make a full project on YouTube for it, and I was able to have a ton of fun in the 2 to 3 days that I played it. And I already have it on PC, so it wasn't a new game to me, even though I put about 2 hours into the PC version, because a friend of mine borrowed me a Steam key so I could log into his and play it there. This room here is pretty simple. I'm going to use distractions, I'm going to move bodies, and we're going to go through the elevator or the door that's just there that needs, I think it might need a code. You'll soon see. One of the greatest improvements, it's an elevator, that Pandora Tomorrow did was whenever there is an access code that you need to put in a door, you don't have to look in your notes for it. The game will tell you it while you're accessing the code panel, and it's an oversight in this game that, while it makes it slightly unique because you're constantly going into your information to find stuff, and it doesn't spoon feed at you, it is so much better in the games that follow it. But back to the tangent anyhow, folks. I managed to get a great trading value for it, and I put it towards Dragon Age Inquisition, which I'm looking forward to doing a nightmare walkthrough of, because it's a game that I'm not very comfortable with, and it's a game that I'm not too familiar with, so it's going to be fresh new ground for me, and everybody tells me that Nightmare on those games is really tough, so hopefully I'll be able to find some interesting strategies to beat it and help others beat it. And the game looks lovely, considering it's on 360. There was one instance of textures that kinda took a while to pop in, but I've seen none of that, and as a whole, the visual fidelity of that game is stellar. Like, coming off Shadows of Mordor, Pong would have looked fucking good, but this looks fantastic, so it's rejuvenated my faith in these old machines, and if you are limited to only being able to buy it on PS3 or 360, feel free to do so, guys, because Inquisition looks really nice. Obviously, it'll look considerably better on next gen, but that's comes with the territory. If you truly are that kind of person, you will be buying everything on PC anyway, and that's just the way you'll be. Something worth noting here, if you turn off the lights in these rooms, the guard that patrols the corridor just in front of me will notice the lights are off, and it forces me to deal with him in a situation I wasn't expecting. This brings back so much, like, so many memories. It's unbelievable. This is a massive nostalgia dump, because I remember this level being incredibly hard. You know, I remember really suffering through it. And it sticks out, the CIA building, which is funny because playing back through it, I think the Kleinetech building is much worse than this. But this one stood out for some reason. And once again, I'm going to be... Oh, body moved. He's playing dead. Nobody was harmed in the making of this, don't worry, folks. We're all pacifists, really. But I got Inquisition. And our local game store is literally called Game. You know, it's catchy, it's easy to remember. Game.co.uk if you want to check it out. And it is a pretty expensive mainstream game shop. It bought up its competition in our area, which was GameStation, and it generally absorbed it into its gelatinous mass, and then it closed it, so there was no more competition in our local town. However, CEX opened up, and they've been its direct competitors now. And I took the game into that place and I asked for the trading value, and it was 30 quid for store credit or £27 in cash if you want to do it that way. Which is really good, considering when you buy a game, folks, the diminishing returns on what you get from them when you try and trade it back in, doesn't matter how close to the date you got it is pretty ridiculous. The only real way to make money nowadays is to get a refund, is to literally have your fun with the game within the first week and take it back, you know. Say somebody bought it you for Christmas or whatever excuse you want to say, nothing wrong with the game, just blah blah blah, boom, and take it back, get your monies back, and there you go. However, morally, that's not cool, of course, but it all depends on the type of person you want to be. Some people do that, some people don't. I personally can't do that. I wish I could, but I can't. I'm too nice. But as far as trading goes, you get fucked. You get so fucked. Like, I remember taking a game in that was pretty new, I forget which one it was, and they gave me less money for it if I traded it in than the bus fare it took me to go and try and trade it in. That's just how much they rob you. So to get that price, it was really refreshing. And then I went over to Game. And the first thing I noticed about Game, because it's been a while since I've been in this store, I don't know why I went all Dutch then, the store, and they had phones in the window, and it's a game shop. It looked like cash converters. It looked so sad, like the shadow of its former self. They had phones, tablets. They've obviously expanded their market. However, they're expanding it directly in direct conflict with the CEX shop, which does the exact same. It's essentially cash converters, just with 1/10 of the stolen goods, so it's not quite as hot. And it was really strange to see that they'd done this to it, because Game used to be this pillar of gaming. It was never truly great, but it was all we had, so you kind of got used to it. So to see it kind of skulking down to the lower classes, it was interesting to see that. And when I went in, I asked the guy behind the counter for the price check. You'll never guess the discrepancy here. It was unbelievable. 22 quid store credit, and I think 17 quid cash. So that's the reason why this shop is failing, effectively, because they have not got competitive rates. Their rates are atrocious. And then I went onto the shelves to look at the prices. They were selling that game for 40 quid on the Xbox 360 that I was trying to trade in. I got it from a different place, 34 quid. That is a 6 quid difference. That is a massive difference. And then I looked on the shelves, 45 quid for almost everything. It was unbelievable. We've just come from a place where everything was $39.99 and they had it all marked up by a good 6 quid. And you just think to yourself, how can you ever compete with this? You're obviously not getting that much, sales. Because when we went into the store, there was nobody there. In the other place, it was completely stacked. There was a queue and everything. And there was about 4 people behind the till at Game and just nothing. It was really sad. But the cool thing was, when I said I didn't want either of the options he gave me, and I just thanked him for checking it, he kind of looked both ways and then mentioned that they do a price match. And he said, if you've seen any competitive rates and you want us to price match them, we'll beat them by £1. So I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. And I did. I mentioned that the other store had it for 30, so he gave me it for 31, and I was able to get Dragon Age Inquisition for about 12 quid, which is a massive bargain, because it's brand new. And my girlfriend said something pretty interesting. She was like, why wasn't that the original rate anyway, if Game are so aware, of the competitors and that they have to have a competitive price to even stay relevant? And that's the big question, isn't it? They don't want you to know what the other people's prices are. They're playing on your ignorance so that you go there, they give you their numbers and you accept them, not knowing that you could go somewhere else and get better ones. And of course it's not their place to inform you of these kind of things, because that's how business works. The less informed the consumer is, the more money they can steal from you. But at the same time, you have to be aware of what you're entitled to, and there's a lot of people that aren't, and it's a massive shame that people just rush into those kind of purchases. But it's also sad to see game, become this thing that they never were. But at the same time, it was an inevitability because they're going the same way that HMV did. And HMV, 18 quid for a fucking CD. That's like, how much is that? Like $35? Can you imagine paying $35 for a CD? Unbelievable. And they wonder why they're going under. But that's enough talk about that stuff. All I've been doing here, folks, is moving bodies, hiding them, and proceeding forward. A lot of this is going to be slow and methodical. I have a lot of fun playing these games this way. Of course, there are multiple ways to play them. If you want to use your rifles, feel free. They have all those goodies and gadgets that make shit super easy. If you want to shoot stuff, do that. I just don't recommend it because the shooting is appalling. But I had another interesting run-in with an online retailer yesterday, which I should really explain, because it's a pretty interesting story. And there's nothing much happening here except for some stealth, and there's nothing too much specific I have to lay down to help you get past, because all this is pretty simple stuff. But I bought Super Smash Bros. Wii U. I say I bought it. It doesn't come out in my country till Friday. It's been out like 2 fucking weeks in America. It's bullshit, man. I hate that nonsense. There's all these people playing the tits off it. They've had it for weeks, and we're still here sat scratching our asses. But enough of that. So I purchased it, and I went in and I got my pre-order confirmed, and then I paid for my pre-order, and it warned me if I were to cancel my pre-order there would be an administrative charge of 70p, which is probably £1 without tax. And I was like, that's perfectly fine, I don't see myself cancelling it for what foreseeable reason, and even if I do, 70p is not so bad. However, as irony would have it, I noticed that they were doing an offer with Smash Bros. Wii U where you could get the £20 GameCube controller adapter for £10 with the game. So that's a saving right there of 10 quid, which is a lot of money. And I was like, shit, I've just bought it, and I should really get this one because it would make more sense. So I cancelled my order and incurred the charge, and then I went to pre-order the other version. And apparently, Shop2... What the hell happened then? Whoa, did you see that shit? I think my game crashed, and then it came back. Scary. I'm glad I kept that in. That's the kind of performance you're going to be running into here, dudes. It's ridiculous. But I went to pre-order the other one, and when I clicked on it, it took me to a screen which then informed me that it was out of stock. So I cancelled my order that was perfectly fine. I incurred a charge of about £1, which of course is not the end of the world, but it's still annoying, to then try and pre-order something that said it was available and awesome on the main page of it, for me to only click deeper and it to deny me. Gosh, I was mad. I can't even begin to tell you how mad I was. It was unbelievable. And I went today with the intention of checking out how much that adapter would cost, because I'm sitting in a room with a shelf behind me that has 3 standard GameCube controllers and a GameCube Wavebird, which, if you don't know what that is, it was a limited edition controller that was wireless, and it was sexy and all silver and grey or something. Awesome controllers. And that way I might be able to do some of the 8-player stuff that you can do on the new Smash. But when I went to check the Wii U sections in those stores, they had such a poor showing. Like in my local city, nothing. Absolutely nothing for Wii U. It's so underrepresented. There's a word there I'm trying to say. Its representation is lower than it should be, and that word just left me in the dust. But it's really sad to see that, because I think Nintendo are truly, for the first time since the Wii U's come out, they're moving, and they're moving at a pretty good clip. And right now, in all the so-called next-gen consoles, because I know there's a lot of people that want to say that the Wii U is kind of like a Dreamcast in the progression of systems, where it's a little bit more powerful than last gen, but it's not as powerful as next gen. Out of all of the 3 that are available, I would rather own a Wii U, and thus I do. And it's a pretty bold statement to make, because people will always say, the Wii U has no games. But for me, it has more games than are available on the other ones. So I'm super stoked and happy I have this system now. And Smash is just going to add to that, because I'm going to cover the event mode, I'm going to cover the campaign stuff, and I'm going to get a ton of hopefully local multiplayer with my friends who used to play it back in the day. And I'm going to go online. So it should be really, really fun. But now that we've picked up the F2000, we have access to the Beast Gun. This weapon is insanely powerful. Not only will it always take out the lights where you aim, because it doesn't seem to have the weird random hit detection of the pistol, but it also comes with accessories that trivialise most of this game. And they trivialise it in a beautifully fun way. You have the airfoil rounds, which when fired at a person's head will be a non-lethal instant takedown. You have the sticky shockers, which when fired at an opponent anywhere will take them down instantly. They can also be fired into water to have bonus effects to get more than one person. And then you have the cameras that can either show you things that are in front of you or distract people. And all of them are awesome, and for the most, I'm not going to use them unless I have a really cool strategy involving them, so don't worry too much about that kind of stuff. But that is the end of the first part of the CIA headquarters. Thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.